Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for coming. I hope you all enjoyed the photography competition a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was quite good, and you've seen all the pictures, hopefully, on the website. Are they on the website? No, they're on Facebook. On Facebook. Oh, so
and on Instagram.
Can they be on the website?
I'm not on Facebook.
Okay.
Can we not have them on the website?
Could they be on the website, anybody?
We can, yeah.
Yeah.
Never been on.
We always used to have one.
I'm answering on Jane's behalf, but we can. If you've got,
that's why she doesn't look very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, thank you everybody for joining us at home as well. I'm sure, well, I hope that you all realise that it isn't going to be the talk that was originally advertised on the website. But we are very lucky to have Colin Wilson, one of our members, who stepped in to give us a talk on Morocco, which is very handy for 2 or 3 people in the room here because they're going there in a month's time. Right, so I'm just going to first of all read the future meetings. The last indoor meeting is in 2 weeks' time, and it's Keith Betton, who we've met before, who's talking about bird songs and calls. So that's Wednesday, the 2nd of April, 2 weeks tonight, and that's in this room. The outdoor meeting on the Saturday, the 22nd of March, sorry, that's this Saturday, is a day trip to, what is it, Keynsham? Keyhaven, sorry, Keyhaven and Pennington. Sorry, that is bad writing. Keyhaven and Pennington Marshes, and Rob Godden is going to lead that one. And then the RSPB meeting at Reading, the indoor next one is Tuesday, the 8th of April, and it's the natural history of Thailand with David Massey. Sorry, David, I know you're here. And the outdoor meeting is on Sunday, the 13th of April, Aston Rowant and Cowley's Woods. I don't know who's leading that. Doesn't say. Who? Peter Scudamore's leading that one. RSPB Wokingham and Bracknell, the indoor meeting. The next one is on Thursday, the 10th of April, and it's the Great Bustard introductory programme by David Waters. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit with the writing. And the outdoor meeting is on Wednesday. The outdoor meeting is Wednesday, the 26th of March at Greenham Common. Not sure who's leading that. The indoor meeting is finished for this season. And the outdoor one is on Saturday, the 29th of March, the day trip to the New Forest with Bob Lyle leading. And joint with the BOC, Monday, the 31st of March, is Fish Lake Meadows and Testwood Lakes with Bob Lyle again. Okay, did any other of the officers want to have any announcements, make any announcements? Nope. Okay. I think maybe we could just find out who's been seeing interesting things recently. But I do want to tell a story, first of all, that somebody here has just told me. They were in, did you say Watlington, Anna?
No, in playing fields.
Playing fields where?
At school.
Right, at school, which is?
Henley.
Oh, Henley, sorry, I can't hear you very well. And she was assaulted by a red kite. They were sitting having a picnic, and a red kite came and wrapped its arm right around her and took some meat from, I believe, her companion's hand, which is just incredible. Yeah, that's never happened to me, but what a thing. Has anybody else had any other such exciting experiences? Or maybe not quite so exciting?
Well, there were 2 very beautiful gargany at Fobney yesterday.
Oh, 2 gargany at Fobney yesterday. Anything else for anybody? I've still got my Mr. and Mrs. Blackcap on my feeder, which is really nice. Anything else from anybody? Yes?
Serenaded by chiff chaps. It's like things to work along the canal.
Yeah, chiff chaps are back, aren't they, singing? Yes, somebody's been serenaded by the chiff chap singing, chiff chaps. Anything? No?
Well, I'll tell a story when I stand up.
Colin's going to tell us a story later. I think I've covered everything, haven't I? I haven't actually written any notes to remind myself. So I will introduce Colin, who, as I say, very nobly has stepped in to help us out at the very last minute. I'm sure most of you know Colin. He joined the ROC, as it was then, the Reading Ornithological Club, in 1986, and he was the publicity secretary. He's been field meetings organiser and the editor of the Berkshire Bird Report, and he's been chairman here, which is quite a lot, isn't it? Okay, so I'd like to introduce Colin, who's going to tell us about one of his trips to Morocco. Okay, so can we welcome Colin?
Thank you, Doc.
I did mean to say, actually, for those of you here, there are some Reading Water magazines down here for autumn last year and spring this year. If you just help yourself to a copy or two.
Okay,
I'll just need to
So-
take your slide up, so
and then tell me where to stand. I'll fidget lots. So just while we're waiting, my little story is that I'm a bird ringer, and we were ringing the other day in Hampshire, a little site, and we only caught 17 birds, which is not a lot, with about 12 nets up. Of the 17 birds, 13 were dunnocks, and they were all caught in the same net. And what that indicated to me is that there definitely are passages of birds, even like dunnocks, that we know are sedentary, but even then, there was no way these 17 dunnocks were all living in the one bush behind the net. So they must be moving through.
right, you're currently showing
Okay.
well, Colin. If you move about a lot, I might have to move the camera, but
All right, okay, where is the camera? Is it this one?
this is the camera.
Okay, I'll try and look at that occasionally. Right, so apologies, first of all, to those of you that have been in the club for some years that may have seen this talk before. But hopefully, if your memory is like mine, you've forgotten it completely anyway. So yeah, this really was for us one of the best ever trips. We've been doing trips for about 30 years between us, and it's usually the three of us. That's Ted here, and Brian on the other side, and believe it or not, that's me when I was younger in the middle. And so we chose to go off, and if wherever we went, we just found a book that would tell us where to go and find some birds. And this is the main one that we used, and it helped us draw our itinerary together. So we started in Marrakesh up the top there, and went down to the first star at the bottom, which is the Atlas Mountains. Up. I said down. It's actually up into the Atlas Mountains to the highest point we could get. Then you can't cross the no roads cross the high Atlas, so we had to go back down and around and work our way to a place called Ouarzazate, and we stayed there on our second night, and then from Ouarzazate up to heading west to a place called Bulmain, which was the best desert area that we felt that we could achieve. And then we spent a whole day reversing our route and came down to Agadir in the bottom left corner there to do some bird watching around the Agadir area, and then a sprint all the way back to Marrakesh to catch our aeroplane. And of course, we all start bird watching from the moment we land, don't we? So we were all looking outside the windows on the aircraft to see if we could see any birds on landing. I think this was about the only one, pallid swift, that we felt we could identify. I must admit, identifying pallid swifts, I think, is extremely difficult, because pallid swifts are so alike to common swifts that they're a hell of a challenge to spot the difference. But anyway, we convinced ourselves that we could do this. What have I done?
By the arrows.
Yeah, is that one all right? Yeah, okay. So one of the first things you know about landing in Marrakesh is you don't particularly want to drive because the roads are utter chaos. So we thought we would have to drive to achieve our journey. So we would arrive nice and early, and we would find our hotel in the daylight. But as you can see, I mean you just didn't know where you were going most of the time. So we thought we'd be in good time. But what they didn't tell us, the car hire firm, was that we could not pay by credit card when we got there. They said, you got to pay by cash. And what you know in Morocco is that they have a closed currency. You can't get it outside Morocco. You can only get it inside. So we spent the best part of an hour raiding every cash dispenser we could find in the airport with every card we got to find enough money to give to this guy to get the car. So it ended up almost dark when we finally signed the papers and got access to the car. So that was not, let's say, the best start, but it was a good car. So off we went to our hotel, where we had our first slightly chaotic or second chaotic experience, which was, where do you park? Because this was right next to the main station in Marrakesh. There were cars everywhere. It was just, again, it was complete chaos in the pitch dark. You didn't know where you were. Some guy comes out in his sort of Berber shift and everything and runs across and he says, give me the keys. Goes, what? He said, I parked the car. I parked the car for you. I mean, we haven't got a clue where to put the car anyway, so we just gave him the keys. And we went off in the hotel. We said we're leaving early in the morning, very early. And we went off to the hotel. It was a lovely hotel, super good night, you know, lots of nice breakfast. Came out in the morning and the guy was there with the keys and with the car. So it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. So anyway, soon we were on the road and there were only one or two obstacles to cope with, the odd few camels and so on. So we were on our way up to the High Atlas, to the most the greatest height we'd be able to get to a place called Uckermeiden. But we stopped off, as you do, you know, your first morning in a new country and you're keen to get finding birds. So we parked up. It was a decent car, I must say, and it did very well for us. And that's Ted there. And we started just wandering around, you know, looking for a few species. So one of the first ones was a short-toed eagle, of which there were quite a lot. They're a fairly common bird in the right places. And so that was sitting up nicely. Then we had bee eaters. Now, one experience that you'll have watching this this evening is that there are different standards of photography. So this was one of mine that I was reasonably proud of. But I'm afraid Brian, who's won the BOC competition more times than I dare to count, he is a brilliant photographer. So he's always going to be better than me. That's not a very good one. That wasn't mine though. But that's crested lark. Well, anyone that's birdied really in Mediterranean countries would have seen plenty of crested larks. That again is another one of mine. It's a bit soft, the picture. But red rump swallows were around everywhere. Nightingales. This was a picture that Brian took actually, but we always used to joke that Ted always took the back end of birds. He never seemed to be able to get a photograph of the front end. So, but again, as you know, or many of you that have travelled to to the Mediterranean areas, then nightingales are in pretty well every bush. You can't see them, but they're in pretty well every bush. And it was the same here on the way up to the High Atlas. And then this, of course, is one of the star birds. It's not uncommon. It's a fairly easy bird to find in Morocco, but it's very much limited the range of this bird to northern Africa. It's the Mousier's red star, and I don't think they've changed the name of that since I went. But half the birds they have changed the names of, so I may give you the wrong names. So we left the sunshine as we got higher and higher and higher, and it was freezing up here in the mountains. You can see there's still bits of snow, but this was Uckermeiden, and so we parked up at the side of the road, and we went off for a wander, and we got quite a few target birds that we wanted to find up here. Quite a developed place really in the local area with this huge dam, and what looked like a load of jackdaws on the ground down there. But there were lots of surprises. So the first one was alpine chough. Quite a few alpine chough, just sitting on the rocks and so on, all around the reservoir. And then the red-legged chough. These are our choughs, if you like, the ones that we see in the West Country and in Wales. So and they of course they've got very distinctive calls, haven't they? Which and when you see them tumbling around, you can hear them, instantly what you've got. Quite a few black red starts on many of the old buildings. Again, so common in Europe, but so few ever seem to come across the English Channel. Rock bunting, again, quite common in southern Europe, but certainly there's quite a few here up in the mountains. They're quite pretty birds. And the African or blue chaffinch, again, said to be a subspecies, unless they're splitting all these birds everywhere. They split it last year, did they? Yeah. So someone's got the blue half and someone's got the other half. Right. So yeah, I'm not sure whether it's a good thing having Ray in the audience or not, but he knows more about this stuff than I do. Yeah, and this is a house bunting, very similar to the rock bunting, but pretty well every building, particularly in Marrakesh, has got a few house buntings on it. And again, you can see that picture's a bit soft. That's one of mine. This is not a good photo either, another one of mine, but the rock sparrow is really quite an uncommon bird everywhere that I've been anyway. But they had this little yellow bit on the throat, and it's so difficult to see. And it was just a remarkable opportunity to get a picture of the bird actually showing the yellow throat. But again, they were up on the wires in Uckermeiden. So when we went, this bird, do you all know what this is? Anyone know what this is? Okay, so it's obviously a wheatear. It was known in its day as Seabones wheatear, but it's now Atlas wheatear, and again confined to really quite a small area in the Atlas Mountains. And you'll notice the difference between that and it used to be a subspecies of the northern wheatear. This is our wheatear. But you can see from the sea bones or the Atlas wheatear, there's none of that warm brown orangey colour on it at all. But they were both up there, as were the shore larks or horned larks, as they tend to be called there. They are, unless somebody split these, they are the same species, the horned lark and the shore lark. So I think we always think that these are pretty rare birds, don't we? So it was really quite special seeing this bird up there in the mountain. But when I had a bit more of a look about it, it's said to be one of the commonest birds in the world, actually. But it just doesn't come near us very often. So you can see the areas so far up in the north around the Arctic, and they're largely the orangey colours as opposed to the dark brown are the breeding areas, and the summer areas are the yellow areas, and so you can see the one in North Africa there. So another one of my favourites is the crimson-winged finch, and the crimson-winged finch. Again, these have been split as well because there are two. I've seen them in Turkey, and I thought they were the same as these birds. They look the same, and to me they were all crimson-winged finches. But these have been split as well. So this one now is the African crimson-winged finch, and the one in Turkey is called the Asian crimson-winged finch. So once you've seen a few birds in any of these countries, you just sit at home while people tell you, "Oh, you've seen another few birds." You know, it's just keep splitting and making your list longer and longer. No effort required. So that basically is the only area where you will find the African version. So it's pretty well all in the high Atlas mountains. But an absolutely beautiful bird. So we've done pretty well what we could here because we set off really early in the morning. We've driven all the way up into the mountains, spent a few hours, but now we wanted to get to Ouarzazate, or our hotel just past Ouarzazate in daylight. So we didn't have to drive through another town when it was dark. So we shot off back down the mountain, which was itself quite a tortuous drive, and then up over the top. Well, you know what it is, don't you? That's my photo of a little owl. But of course, I did go with a few people who thought they were much better than me at photography. So Ted took that with his new camera, and then Brian came along. And with the aid of Photoshop, I'm sure, he came up with this. But anyway, it was a good trip, but really this particular journey, we didn't have much time to stop. But by early afternoon, really, we needed, just to get out of the car, get some air. So we came across this oasis, or as they call them out there, a oasis. They call them oasis. Yeah. So anyway, we stopped at an oasis and went for a little walk just to see if we could find anything. Here's another one of my brilliant photographs. Actually, it's full of yellow wagtails. You can see one on the bottom left there. The idea was just to show the habitat, but there were quite a few yellow wagtails there passing through. Brian took this of the wonderful serin. I mean, they're beautiful birds, and again, wherever you go in Europe, these little things are rattling away in the tops of the trees. As long as you learn their call, you'll find hundreds. They're really quite a common bird in southern Europe, Mediterranean. Pied flycatcher, female pied flycatcher, because we went at the end of April, early May, and so the birds were all moving through. You know, the migrants all passing up through Morocco on their way to Europe, and hopefully to Britain for many of them. So then along comes the male as well. And there's not many places in the world you can go and not see these nowadays. Not many gardens in Britain that you can't see these, actually. So plenty of goldfinches everywhere. And then back on the road, and following all these old trucks up the hills takes ages to do. That middle one, don't know whether you can quite make out, is full of horses. Their animal welfare standards weren't taken from the EU. They'd crammed about a dozen horses into the back of this lorry. You can tell how slow that made it. So the next event was quite exciting because there is no AA in Morocco, or not that we found out about. But it wasn't us that broke down, it was somebody else. And we were just driving along through the mountains thinking, well, we're going to get through, we'll get there in time. And this guy steps out in the road, puts his hand up for us to stop. Well, Ted would probably not like me to put it quite this way, but Ted was driving at the time. I was sitting in the back. Brian was in the front, and I had all the telescopes next to me in the back. Anyway, as the guy came out into the road, Ted said, I'm not going to stop. So, you know, he just kept going, and we thought this guy's going to step off the road, but he didn't. He just get more and more into the road. And so with screeching tires and brakes, we stop. And this guy doesn't stop to talk. He runs around the back and jumps in to the seat next to me and impales himself on 3 telescopes. But when he got comfortable, he explained in perfect English, you know, that he'd broken down. He needed to get to Ouarzazate where he lived to get a mechanic to go back out with him and fix his car. So we thought, oh, we really don't need this. But so we found our way to Ouarzazate anyway. But he said, I really have to thank you with some proper Berber hospitality. We didn't want it. We wanted to go to the hotel. But anyway, so he takes us in and he sticks us in his salon, his guest salon in his building, and promptly introduces us to his brother, Mohammed. And this guy disappears to go and fix his car and leaves us with Mohammed. He was an extremely polite and friendly gentleman. I can tell you, actually, he can't hear me saying this, but he did tell me, or he did teach me that dental work is not very good in Morocco. It was not pleasant speaking to him from a close distance. But anyway, he was extremely nice, and he did the traditional thing and brought us a tray of mint tea. And so we all sat drinking wonderfully over-sugared, over-sweetened mint tea while we discussed what we were there for, and we kept looking at the watch and thinking we need to move on. So we had a nice chat, and his English was perfect, and we made our excuses, you know, that we need to go, and And he said, well, what are you doing? What are you going to be doing? We said, well, we're bird watchers. You know, we're going around all sorts of different places to find these birds. And he said, I know somewhere. He said, I could take you there. And he said, they've got blue birds and they've got yellow birds. And we thought, well, we don't necessarily need this. But anyway, so I said to him, look, we've got a really tight itinerary. What we'll do, we'll go away and see how we can adjust this itinerary and see whether or not we can come back and spend some time with you. Can you give us your phone number? And so we'll keep that, and we'll ring you tomorrow, or we'll message you to say whether or not we can do it. So that's how we parted. And so we had no intention of actually going back, but it was the only way to get out of it. This is him writing his phone number. So just a little bit about this place, Ouarzazate. So it is actually a really interesting place. So it's been used for all these film sets, but this power station, that's the overhead view down in the bottom right, is quite fantastic and very, very, experimental in what it does. But there's all these mirrors that all shine up on this tower, which is full of a salt apparently, which enables the power to be stored for at least 8 hours for transmission. So it's all high-tech stuff I know very little about, nothing about, to be honest. But that's anyway, it's a point of interest in the desert. And where we were staying actually was on the banks of this, which is a huge reservoir called the Barrage El Mansour. And one thing is that we do rough it a bit on these holidays. We never stay in luxurious accommodation. So this this was our choice. Infinity pools and everything. Breakfast was served on this appalling terrace in the morning, but I would have to say, actually, you would die if you jumped in that pool. It was so cold. And it was freezing cold on the balcony, even in the sun, there was a breeze and it was cold air. That was the astonishing thing, actually, about, you think the desert's going to be hot. But a lot of the time it was extremely cold. So I warn you guys, when you go out there, make sure you take a few fleeces with you. So anyway, we spent our first morning at the barrage, or a couple of hours. First thing, just wandering around, looking for a few birds. So this is the common bulbul, which is pretty common. And then I always get the name of this wrong, but I'm trying to remember it properly now. It's a rufous bush chat, which was a somewhat lurking bird, but quite. I thought it was one that I really wanted to see. I don't know why. You get in your mind, some of the species you dearly like to find. And so moving down towards the water, some ruddy shell duck, black-winged stilts, of course, quite a common bird really in Mediterranean Europe and North Africa. Collared pratincoll. Most of these photos are primes. That's how you see the edges. White wagtail, of course. Haven't changed the name of that, have they?
Right.
Sorry.
The
The Moroccan race.
Oh, right. Is that right?
Probably rename it at some point.
Plenty of little egrets all over the rocks. That was a good photo of a San Martin, I thought. In flight, that's can't be an easy one to take. But again, these birds, you know, a lot of these birds were probably moving through and heading to more northerly places. Now, this one's actually quite an unusual bird. This is the Icterine warbler, which is not at all common. It's isn't this one? What's the other name for it? Come on, you guys know.
Olivaceous warbler,
it is another name for the western olivaceous warbler. Yeah. Isn't it Icterine? No, it'll come to me. I've got it written on a slide somewhere. I thought, never mind. Anyway, this is where they're found. So it's yeah, I've got that wrong, haven't I? But anyway, you can see that North Africa is their breeding grounds, and they're winter south of the Sahara. So quite a good bird. And then you get magpies out there, and the only difference to our magpies are these sort of eyelids, blue eyelids, which make them, they're called Maghreb magpies.
Is it the lion warbler?
Sorry?
Is it the lion warbler?
Isabelline warbler, thank you. Yeah, thanks. And Thekla lark. You know, when we first started bird watching and going to southern Europe, we can never tell a Thekla lark from a crested lark. I think a lot of people have the same trouble when you're just looking through your binoculars at these things, because they look so absolutely so similar. And in the end, we found a book that said, if it lands in a tree, it's probably a Thekla lark, and if it lands on the ground, it's probably a crested lark. So that was the principle that we used for much of our birding. We've never taken it too seriously, but in fact they are different. The bill length is different, but of course everything is relative. And when you're just looking through binoculars, you haven't got two next to each other to compare, but I have ringed both of these in Spain, and it is so noticeable when you've got the two birds in the hand. But I've never claimed to be terribly skilled at birding. So you find lots of things in the desert, and we found a stash of these, and why we found them in the middle of nowhere, we had no idea. So while there weren't any people with them, I can assure you. But anyway, while we were looking at them and pondering, you know, why they were there, the subject got onto who they would fit, and then we decided it's time to move. So this was the place where Mohammed wanted to take us to, Fint Oasis, which is actually really quite close to Ouarzazate. And most of the books tell you to go here. We didn't have very much time. So it was a bit of a fleeting glimpse. And I wish I could remember, I should have looked it up on a list I've given to Jane. There were one or two water birds we saw here that we didn't see anywhere else. But it was a little bit disappointing. But we didn't see any yellow birds. we saw one bluebird, but it was in the clutches of a kestrel.
Oh,
That was what was left of a barn swallow. So that made the trip a little bit interesting here. And then, of course, common sandpipers, which again, I mean, they always seem to pop up wherever I go. I've always been amazed at where you can find common sandpipers. And I did look up the, you know, their where they do their migration, the trails. So we tend to get all the stuff on the western side that comes through the UK. And then there's some that cross the Sahara and go way up into Scandinavia, and the South African ones head up to Russia. But this is, as I know you've had talks about ringing and so on. So this stuff we only know as a result of ringing. So I've reached time for a tea break, a drink break. It's a little bit earlier than normal, but yeah, and mint tea, but I don't think Sue has brought any with us. So
Thank you, Colin. Oh, need the microphone, I think.
okay.
Okay. We're going to have a 10-15 minute break now, and then Colin will be back to tell us more entertaining stories, I'm sure, from Morocco. So we'll see you all later. Okay, right. Okay, welcome back, everybody at home, hopefully. Colin's now going to continue the story of his exciting trip in Morocco. Colin.
okay. Thank you. Tea's over. So we're on the road again. Well, we will be. What?
Going.
Oh, I know what I've got to do. Yes. Right, okay, so now if you look at Ouarzazate, which I understand is not called Ouarzazate at all, but it is by me, we're now going to head east to a place called Bulmain, which is going to be the access point really for the for most of our real desert bird watching. But on the way, we're going to stop as usual, and these oases, you drive miles through desert bits, and then you suddenly come across an oasis, and you're pretty well guaranteed to find birds wherever you stop. And so we went off up the track and started exploring. So, of course, one of the first things you do is hear a wryneck. Wrynecks are brilliant for announcing their existence, and after a little while you can find it hiding on the bottom of the palm. Then there's the Bonelli's warblers, Western Bonelli's warblers. Again, these are passing through, and pretty well on every bush. Woodchat shrike, another lovely bird. I mean, they're so attractive, aren't they? And I love birds that perch up like that. You know, they're just so nice and easy to find and then stand out. I mean, it's a bit like stone chats, isn't it? I love stone chats as well. Anything that perch and wheat ears, they all sit up really nicely. One thing we did find was some extremely large oranges, which were tasty enough to go in the car. And then we found this dry wadi, which riverbed, and we thought, yeah, this looks a good place to stop. This is going to be worth a few hours of hunting around and trying to find some of these interesting species. So this is an example of the habitat. So we didn't know what to expect. We did know what we wanted to find. So one thing about Morocco is brilliant for wheat ears. So most of the wheat ears that you want to find are going to be in Morocco. So this is a black wheat ear, believe it or not. But then we get the white crowned black wheat ear. And this is the desert wheat ear. And this is told to be a desert wheat ear because the black on the wing also meets the black on the face. If that doesn't happen, then you have a black-eared wheat ear. So it's worth remembering that particular ID point. And then we found the red rumped wheat ear, which was the one that I was most excited about because I'd never seen a red rumped wheat ear before. And that one perched up really nicely. So Brian managed to get all these extremely nice photographs. Then we spotted a Barbary ground squirrel. There were a few of these. Unlike our squirrels, they didn't seem to need trees. They would be, well, it's in the name, isn't it? Ground squirrels. Oh, okay, I'll jump to there. Let's see if I can just go back one. Because, yeah, so this is the streaked scrub warbler, which again is a very interesting little bird. Really, it's sort of reminiscent of things like Dartford warblers with the cocktail. And the exciting thing about this was it was carrying food, of course, and then you think, hey, are we going to find a nest? So we did spend quite a bit of time watching this little bird, and we just couldn't find the nest, which was a shame. Another photograph, I think, again, super photography. But for me, that was one of the absolute highlights of the bird. So we could see it was a bit of a dust storm building. We'd been out for a couple of hours. We hadn't been sensible enough to take water with us. So we thought, okay, we'll go back to the car. And we get to the car, parked up not far from the road. Now, we weren't sure whether this was as a result of a recent camel passing by, or whether it was caused by Brian when he realised he'd lost the car keys. So there we were, stuck in the desert, miles from anywhere, and we couldn't get in the car. So we spent some time searching where we thought we'd been, everywhere in the desert. Absolutely no luck. All gathered back at the car and thought, what do we do now? Because of course you'd think, I'll ring the AA or I'll ring the car company. But of course the car's locked and all the papers are in the car. So then I thought, I've got Mohammed's phone number. I'll ring Mohammed. He's going to be useful. So I rang dear Mohammed and he said, I'll help you. Yes, I'll help you. Leave it with me. I'll find a mechanic and we will come and we will sort it out for you. And so we thought, well, thank you very much. That's going to be great. So we went off and we searched again and we had no luck at all. Until Ted, after another hour, I rang Mohammed again and said, where are you on the way? He said, it's Friday. It's Friday and nobody works in Morocco on Friday. So I've had trouble finding a mechanic, but we are on the way. So we spent lots more time. And then after a little bit further, Ted decided he would go where Brian had stopped at a bush to do what you have to do when you've been drinking the night before. And Ted found the keys. So he brings them back to the car. And then we have this dilemma. Do we get on the road or do we wait for Mohammed and do the decent thing and wait for him? So I rang him again and he said, we're not far away. We won't be long now. So I didn't tell him we found the keys and so we left it that he would come and we would give him some money for his trouble. So finally he turns up and we said, what took you so long? He said, well, there was a speed trap on the way and we got fined for speeding. Can this get any worse? Anyway, so the end of the story really is that we coughed up about 70 or 80 quid for all their trouble and for the speeding fines out. Yeah, you'll be okay. It's only about 10 quid if you get done for speeding. So anyway, it was all solved and they went away perfectly happy and so did we. So anyway, it was one of those little stories, that you just have to tell. So off to Balmain and we found this place, the Casbah Tizaroon, this was called, and very grand looking place. And when you arrive, they do no business. You just have to sit down and have some mint tea. So they put you in the corner and they bring you a tray of this really sweet mint tea and you have to sit there and enjoy that while they do whatever they need to do. And then they take us off to our rooms. So we had to pass the pool. Again, you'd die if you went in it, but it looks delicious. Very attractive, doesn't it? I'm sure in the summer it's delightful. I'm surprised it didn't have ice on the top. The view from the back of the hotel was terrific. This would be the river that fed the barrage Al Mansour that we've been looking at the day before. These steps down the side here led to a suite of rooms. This was my room. It wasn't where I slept. This is just a little extra part of it. Standard room. You get this seating area for your guests. You do get a very nice bed as well. But he's freezing, absolutely freezing cold. But anyway, very, very comfortable. Now, Ted decided that he didn't want one of these rooms. He wanted one. This room is called a troglodyte room. Literally, they call it a troglodyte room. So there weren't any REMs in it, but as you can see, Ted's quite a tall chap, and when he gets out of bed in the morning, I was thinking he was almost certainly going to suffer some kind of head injury. But he decided he wanted to stay in the troglodyte room. That was absolutely fine. So all the meals were in this restaurant. You can see again they had these patio heaters to stop you from freezing to death. These are all lit up and they sort of made it reasonably comfortable. And they were fantastic buffet meals. I mean, I've no idea what we ate, but it was all absolutely delicious. Every meal that we had in Morocco was delicious. Most of the time we had no idea what it was, but who cares? It was tasty and we needed it and we deserved it. So the next day we went off to the Tagdit track. Tagdit track, it's called, and this is a very famous track in bird watching circles. We know it was popular because there were one or two idiot tour guides who decided that you had to go from place to place at 100 miles an hour. And they kept whizzing past us and creating dust storms and frightening all the birds off, which was really annoying. I mean, there weren't that many, but enough when there's one or two that spoil your visit. But then one of the commonest birds we saw here was the Temminck's shorelark, Temminck's lark. This, unlike the shorelark, this is white and black on the face, whereas the shorelark has the yellow on the face. And these were very common in the desert areas. Quite easy to find, but that's just, again, shows what a limited range it is. If you want to see a Temminck's shorelark, then you've got to go to this place to find it, or these areas to find it. And then this is the hoopoo lark. That again was one of the birds that we really wanted to find. And we saw this one as one of these lunatics passed us in the tour bus, and he missed it completely, fortunately, and so we could work our way up to it and get quite close. And then the cream-coloured courser, another super speciality, really. And really quite easy to find. You know, I mean, the desert, when you look at it with all these bits and pieces, nothing there until you just sit quietly and start looking, and then you start seeing things moving. So there's no point in racing through these places because you just won't see the stuff. So yeah, then one of the most incredible things in Morocco was all the towns, there's no dustbin lorry, or if there is, all it does is go in the desert and tip it. All of the rubbish, there was rubbish everywhere, and it was just, none of it was contained. It just blew for miles and miles and miles. I mean, absolutely appalling sight, and terribly disappointing. You think it would be so simple just to put a fence around or something for a degree of control on where the rubbish was. We saw very few raptors, very disappointed with raptors really on our trip. So I think we probably only noted 3, I think. But this was a long-legged buzzard. And this was obviously looking over the rubbish to see what it could prey upon. And we're back to my good photos again. So this is a bird that Robin was talking about, a thick-billed lark. So the thick-billed lark, you think, oh, this is a bird of the desert, you know, you're going to go out there and find it in the desert. Well, the damn things all come into the rubbish to feed. We provide them with all this artificial supplies of food, and I'm sure it can't do them any good. But anyway, the photography did improve a bit. So we got a little bit closer there with that one. I mean, I think this is it really is a special bird, this. I mean, it's so weird. You know, that bill really does look so peculiar. But I was, you know, absolutely delighted to see this thing. Thought that was great. Again, you know, you've got to go there to see it because you're not going to see it anywhere else. It's got to be up there in North Africa. So this is the desert lark. We didn't see many of these, but again, a pretty special bird. Got to say, you know, Brian really does get his photos, doesn't he? And then these, I mean, trumpeter finches are pretty well everywhere in Africa, and not uncommon as caged birds in some places. And believe it or not, there's even house sparrows in the rubbish tip. That's the one bird you would expect to find at the rubbish tip, isn't it, really? But plenty of those around as well. So when we were, while we were in Balmain, there's an area called the Daddy's Gorge. I'm probably pronouncing all these names wrongly, but it's the way it's written, so you might recognise it that way. But the Daddy's Gorge is a quite spectacular area and well worth visiting just for the views. And so we haven't got much time, but we thought we'd whiz up there, and there were a few sort of sights along the way that were quite spectacular. Our tradition is always to eat ice cream, you know, in the afternoon when you've spent the whole morning bird watching. You have to have an ice cream. It doesn't matter where you are, you've got to have an ice cream. Magnums in particular. And magnums you can find almost anywhere, certainly in Europe. But nobody sold ice cream in Morocco. I mean, don't go thinking you can get your magnums, because you won't. But anyway, we were coming up this zigzag road, you know, all the way up this gorge, and there was this cafe at the top with these flags flying, and we thought, this is it. So we're going to get our ice creams, but mint tea was the only thing they served. That's all we could get, and we were so disappointed. The only things we did see, I think it was rock martins up at the top. In fact, there were lots of hirundines and so on flying around, and had we got more time, I'm pretty sure we would have been rewarded with spending more hours there. But if you've only got a week and you're trying to fit it all in, difficult to do. So the next day we were going to go all the way from Balmain and down to Agadir on the coast. So that's a really long drive. So there wasn't too much birding that we could do. The scenery on the way is fantastic. I mean, it is a truly beautiful country, you know, with you can tolerate desert and mountains and snow and all the rest of it. I mean, it's just some superb views. More Benelli's warblers in the oases, our common redstart, a few of these cropping up. The southern grey shrike. Again, I think this one was I think we worked out that this one was actually passing through on migration. And then the subalpine warbler, not uncommon in southern Europe again, and Mediterranean countries. And again, I suspect this one was still on its way. And look at this is a real rarity for where we live anyway. I haven't seen one of these at home for some years. But the turtle dove, you can still see them south of Malta, I think. But not that many seem to find their way past Malta. So the next place was Agadir. Our approach with hotels is book the first night, book the last night, and wing it in between. You can usually, because of when we go, it is late April, early May usually. Pretty well nowhere are the hotels booked, and you can just find almost any place, and they'll have rooms, and not expensive. We'd read about this one from some trip reports that it was quite an interesting hotel, and it was actually owned and run by two octogenarian French ladies, and they were really quite eccentric. They didn't speak a word of English, and Ted was the only one of us that could string 2 or 3 French words together. But somehow we made it known that we wanted 2 rooms and that we want a meal. And so we ended up in our rooms, and they managed to communicate that there was a bar underground near the entrance to the hotel. And the bars, of course, in Morocco are only in hotels for the visitors. So we go down the steps to the bar, and there's a hell of a racket. You open the door and you're hit by a cloud of smoke, and the most noise I've heard in a place since I was last at a football match. And it was full of all the local workers. Of course, they don't drink alcohol, but in this bar, it was an exception. There were hundreds of local drunks all in the bar in this fog. So anyway, we just joined them. And the next thing was to go up for our meal. And these 2 rather eccentric old ladies came in. There was a guy who was the looking after us. He was super, you know, seated us in nice seats, took special care. And then the 2 lady owners turned up, and we were forgotten. He was off fawning after them, you know, making sure all their needs were looked after. And they brought in their plates of food, and they got these little dogs, and the dogs were on their laps and eating the meat off the plates, fed off the plates. Couldn't believe it. I mean, maybe people do that. I don't know, but I wouldn't. But it did seem some somewhat eccentric behaviour. So now we were at the Oued Sous, which is in all the books as a place to go looking for quite a few species. The thing about this one was that I managed to ruin the rest of my week here by we parked, and then there was a bank in front of us, and the viewing bank, and I think it was Brian had left his telescope in the back of the car. So I said, "Oh, don't worry about it, I'll bring it." So I pick it up, and then I make a run for this bank to run up the top because it was quite steep. And anyway, I tore my calf muscle, and I could barely stand, let alone walk. So that pretty well, I mean, they were decent enough to largely stick with me. So we didn't go far after that. But we did add a few birds to the list, you know. So that was my next visit when I got back to Friendly Park Hospital, try and get my legs sorted out. Oh God, what have I done? What have I done, Sally?
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, that was where I was.
I don't know why that's come up again.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
Yeah,
that's lovely.
I think
Thank
you should be
you.
okay. Let me check on Zoom.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So yes, back to the Oued Sous. So yeah, a few birds that we hadn't ticked off. You know, there's always a few birds we haven't yet seen. So cormorant, curlew, and the next place that we were going to go was to a place called Tamri, just up the coast. And the good thing about Tamri was that there was a chance here of finding some more fairly unique species. From Tamri, there is Paradise Valley, goes inland, and Paradise Valley is supposed to be a paradise for quite a few birds. And for us, had we seen them all? This was not a good photo, but this is Levalance woodpecker, which we found up there. Then we actually went with this very much a target bird, the Tristram's warbler. But this photo was as close as we got to finding it. So that was a big dip. Great shame. We did find Barbary falcon flying. We followed it along a coast road actually for about a quarter of a mile, and it gave us a lot of chances to get out and see it. And it is basically a peregrine falcon, unless somebody's called that something else. It's still a subspecies, I think. So yes, and then just down from Tamri is Cape Rhea, and this is the bald ibis. Certainly when we went in 2013, I'm telling you how old this trip was now, but in 2013, this was pretty well the world's rarest bird, possibly one or two others around. By 2019, there were about 700. There have been reintroductions all over the place of these. It's reached a point now where what they've done with reintroductions is many of them are kept captive, because the problem is that when on the birds' migration routes, they've often been killed, shot. And so they've never made it, basically, and the population is pretty well done. So so people are now using these things like microlights. They're actually the word's gone out of my head. They're humanizing the birds by bringing them up from as chicks in the presence of humans, making them think they're humans. Imprinting, thank you. And they use microlights to get them to follow them to where they should be wintering. And the birds now are beginning to do it on their own. This seems quite incredible that they've done this. So then now there are quite a lot that are coming out of the reintroduction schemes. So the IUCN has changed the classification from critically endangered to endangered. So shows there's some good reintroduction going on. Then our last point visit place was the Ued Massa, which again is a place where you should find quite a few more birds. I'm afraid with the state of my leg, I had to sit here and look at common sandpipers while the other two went off, and they didn't see a lot, but they did see one of the other star birds of the visit, the black-crowned chagra, which I missed out on, sadly. But that would have been quite something to have spotted that one. So the next day, we had to go home, sadly. And basically that was just follow the motorway from Agadir to Marrakesh. And we timed it all, we'd get there plenty of time, get in the airport. On the way, we spotted this place, Motorway Services, and they sold ice cream. So even at 9 o'clock in the morning, we had ice cream. So, so the story doesn't quite end here. We get to the airport in good time, and we told the guy, the car guy, you know, what time we'd be arriving. So we got there in good time and waited for him, and waited and waited. And in the end, Ted and I thought we'll leave Brian with the car and we'll go in and we'll get in the queue, check in queue, and he could join us. This guy never turned up. So Brian rang him. And he answered the phone and he said, "Oh, I'm still in bed. I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll be there soon." So we were actually saved by the fact, a lucky event, that the entire baggage system in the airport broke down. So nobody could get on any flight or take off. So that gave us an hour for this guy to finally turn up. And when he turned up, you know, he was apologetic. And his last words to us were, "Don't forget to recommend me to all your friends." So anyway, that's the end of the story.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much. I think I've made a note not to go away with you lot, but I think I will stick with Jane and Robin and my friends. And I'm sure they've also found it very helpful, as everybody has probably found it interesting, but very helpful for places to go and birds to look out for. Are there any questions, please?
What food did you try at the local specialities?
Colin's being asked what food he tried.
Yeah, to be honest, I eat anything and everything, so it doesn't matter what's on my plate. I just eat it.
I was just looking forward to try some
Yeah. I mean, tagines, of course, are the sort of thing. You know, I mean, basically stews, meat stews, or a goat stew, or stuff like that. I mean, goat is delicious, absolutely delicious. But it's no, it's super. Quite a lot of vegetable stuff, and yeah, I love all that stuff. So I wouldn't remember because it didn't matter.
You said about how cold you were a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So obviously, as we're going the same time of year as you, what's your recommendation? Is it so long sleeves?
It's just like it's layers basically, because in the middle of the day it does get hot.
Yeah.
But you know, on very high ground it's cold. So I would just take layers and make sure you've got a good thick fleece. In particular, that's what's going to save you at the cold. And don't take swimming suits.
We got a raincoat, right?
Does anybody have any bird questions? Anybody at home have any questions for Colin?
I haven't got any questions, but one comment from Elaine is, "Thanks, Colin. I enjoyed that. Pity about the leg." So,
Yeah.
have sympathy.
Anybody else? No questions? Well, I'm sure we're all extremely grateful to Colin for standing in at such late notice. I've really enjoyed the talk. It's been very entertaining. Thank you. I feel now I don't need to go now. I can't go actually with my friends, but I don't mind because I feel I've seen it all now anyway. So at least I've probably seen things that they might not even see. So that's great. Colin, can we thank him once again for coming?